You know, if there's one lesson that's been beaten into me more times than I care to count, it's this: the market doesn't pay you for being active. It pays you for being right, and being right often means you've got to learn to do nothing. That's the hardest part. Do you see what I'm saying? Everyone wants to trade, everyone wants action, but the market isn't a slot machine. It's a weighing machine, and it's a waiting game. You don't get paid for being early. You don't get paid for being late. You only get paid when you've got the setup, and you've got the patience to wait for it. Now, why do most people fail at this business? Is it because they can't read a chart? No, plenty of them know their lines and their bars. Is it because they don't have enough money? Not always. They fail because they cannot wait. They must have action, like a man who must have cards in his hands. That itch for excitement, that craving for movement, it's poison in trading. Have you ever caught yourself staring at a chart and thinking, well, maybe I'll just put something on just to be in the game? That's the urge that empties accounts. When I started out, I was a boy in a bucket shop, watching tape tick by, nickel by nickel. I thought the trick was in being clever, spotting every little wiggle and trading it. And sure, sometimes it worked. But most of the time, it didn't. I'd win a little here, lose a little there, and by the end of the week, I had nothing to show for all my effort. That's when I realized it's not the constant trading that makes the money. It's the sitting. It's waiting for the real play to show up. Doesn't that sound strange? That you make the most money not by trading, but by waiting. But it's true. Let me tell you, the market has a way of punishing impatience. If you chase, you pay. If you guess, you pay. If you force trades, you pay. But if you wait, if you sit with your hands in your pockets until the picture is clear, you'll be amazed how the odds tilt in your favor. The trick is believing that you don't need to be trading every day. Do you think the big money is made in constant skirmishes? No, the big money is made in the big moves, and big moves don't come every hour. They don't even come every day. They come when conditions are ripe, and until then, you wait. Here's the thing about setups. They're like a train schedule. If you miss one, don't chase it down the tracks. Another one will come. But you've got to know what train you're waiting for, and where it stops. Most traders don't even know their setups. They just jump on anything that moves. That's not trading, that's gambling. And gambling is a fine way to ruin yourself. You wouldn't walk into a casino and think you can beat the house by playing every hand, would you? Then why do it in the market? The best trades I ever made, the ones that paid for houses and cars and everything else, they didn't come from luck or hunches. They came from setups I knew, patterns I trusted, conditions that lined up, and until they lined up, I did nothing. That's the secret most won't accept. Waiting looks like doing nothing. But in truth, waiting is work. Waiting is discipline. Waiting is the trader's real craft. Can you sit there with a chart in front of you and do nothing? Can you hold back when your fingers are itching to click the button? That's the test. I used to think I had to catch every swing. Up, down, sideways, if there was a move, I had to be in it. And you know what that left me with? Commissions, mistakes, and a bruised ego. Then one day, I caught myself. I realized I didn't need every swing. I just needed the fat part of the move. The big middle, where the odds are clear, the momentum is there, and the setup is undeniable. That was a revelation. Do you understand what I mean? The market will always give you chances, but not all chances are equal. Some are noise, some are traps, but a few are golden. And you've got to train yourself to wait for the golden ones. Now, let's talk about charts. Charts are your map, your compass. They tell you where you are and where the market has been. But they won't whisper the future in your ear. That's where setups come in. A setup is nothing more than a condition, a signal, a set of circumstances that tilts the odds. Maybe it's a breakout above a range. Maybe it's a pullback to support. Maybe it's a volume surge that confirms strength. Whatever it is, you've got to know it like the back of your hand. Because if you don't, you'll see setups where none exist. Tell me, have you ever forced a pattern onto a chart just because you wanted a trade? That's the danger of impatience. You start to see what isn't there. And here's another truth: the market won't reward you for almost setups. Almost doesn't pay. It's either there or it isn't. When it isn't, you wait. That's what separates the professionals from the amateurs. The amateur needs a trade. The professional needs the right trade. Can you see the difference? I'll give you an example. In one campaign I ran, I waited weeks for the stock to form the right base. Every day, it wiggled and teased, but it wasn't ready. The boys around me said, "You're missing moves, Jesse." But I knew better. Then one day, the volume swelled, the line broke, and the setup was perfect. I went in heavy. That one trade paid more than a dozen small ones could have. And I could have missed it if I had wasted myself chasing noise the week before. Doesn't that make you think about your own habits? Patience in trading is like capital in the bank. Every trade you don't take, every bad setup you skip, that's money saved. And money saved is money ready for the right play. The market will tempt you with half-formed patterns, with maybes and almosts. But you've got to resist. Why? Because your job isn't to play every card, it's to play the winning ones. Do you sit down at a poker table and shove chips in on every hand? If you did, you'd be broke in an hour. The smart player folds more hands than he plays. It's the same in trading. Folding is part of the game. Now, I'll tell you something about wealth. Wealth in trading doesn't come from 100 trades a week. Wealth comes from compound profits, from stacking gains over time, from avoiding the big losses that set you back months. And what causes the big losses? Impatience. Impatience to force a trade when the market isn't giving. Impatience to double down on a losing idea. Impatience to chase a move after it's already run. Tell me, have you ever chased a stock after a big breakout, thinking it's just getting started, only to watch it reverse and slap you in the face? That's impatience. That's lack of discipline. A trader's greatest asset isn't his brain, or his chart, or his system. It's his patience. Without patience, every other tool is worthless. You could have the best method in the world, but if you can't wait for your method's signals, you're sunk. That's the brutal truth. Think about the times you've lost money. Was it really because the market tricked you? Or was it because you didn't wait for your conditions? Most traders lose not because they don't know enough, but because they can't do nothing. They equate activity with progress. But in trading, it's the opposite. The less you do, the better you do, provided you only act when it matters. Can you believe that? That doing less makes you more. It's counter to everything the world teaches, but it's the truth in markets. So I tell you again, learn to wait for setups. Train your eye. Know your signals. Sit on your hands until they show, and when they do, act with conviction. That's trading. That's how you build. And don't misunderstand me, waiting doesn't mean laziness. Waiting doesn't mean daydreaming. Waiting means preparation. It means studying your charts, watching your levels, marking your conditions, and keeping yourself ready. Because when the setup comes, you can't hesitate. You can't be asleep. You've got to be ready to strike. Do you see the balance here? Too early, you're wrong. Too late, you're wrong. Right on time, you win. And the only way you catch that moment is by preparing while you wait. The truth is, trading is less about intelligence than it is about temperament. The market humbles the smartest men, but the patient man, the disciplined man, he lasts. Why? Because he can wait for his pitch. Like a batter who doesn't swing at every ball, he waits for the one in his zone. Then he swings hard. That's how you win. Are you swinging at every pitch? Or are you waiting for your pitch? That's the question you've got to answer. I'll tell you, the market doesn't care about your opinion. It doesn't care about your need for action. It doesn't care about your hopes. It only cares about setups, about conditions, about probabilities. You can't bend it to your will. You can only align yourself with it. And alignment comes from waiting until it shows its hand. Now, you may think waiting is boring, but let me tell you there's nothing boring about catching a big move. There's nothing boring about watching a trade run in your favor while others are scratching their heads. That satisfaction, that profit, it comes only because you waited. Boredom is the price you pay for success. Can you endure boredom? Can you sit through quiet days without forcing action? If you can, you've got a chance in this game. If you can't, you're better off finding another line of work. I used to watch the crowd. The crowd loves excitement. They love the chatter, the tips, the action. But the crowd is usually wrong. Why? Because they're impatient. They can't sit still. They must always be doing. And that's why the crowd loses. If you want to win, you've got to learn to do the opposite. Stand apart. Be patient. Wait for your setups. Doesn't it make sense that if the majority loses, you've got to act differently than the majority? And remember, money is made in the big swings, the great campaigns. That's where wealth comes from. Not in scratching for pennies. Not in scalping noise. The big money comes from identifying a real move and riding it. But to ride it, you must first wait for it. And most can't wait. They want the thrill now. They want the profit now. And so they miss the big moves because they were too busy chasing small ones. So I ask you, do you want excitement or do you want wealth? Do you want to feel busy or do you want to be right? Because you can't have both. Trading for excitement is a losing game. Trading for setups is the winning game. And every day the market whispers tests in your ear. Here's a little move, do you want it? Here's a false breakout, will you chase it? Here's a setup that's almost ready, will you jump the gun? And every day your discipline is tested. Do you fail those tests? Or do you pass them? That's what decides your future in this business. The hardest lesson of all is that you don't need to be active to be profitable. You don't need to be clever to be successful. You need only to be patient, disciplined, and ready. The setups will come. They always do. The question is, will you be there with money in hand and mind in control when they arrive? Or will you have wasted your capital and your confidence on impatience? That's the choice every trader faces, every single day. When I say that folding weak hands preserves capital for the right opportunities, I mean it in the most practical, hard-learned way. This business is no different from a card table. The fool plays every hand because he thinks that to win he has to always be in the game. The wise man folds more than he plays, because he knows the true test isn't in how many hands you enter, but in how many you avoid. Do you understand the difference? Trading is about survival first and profit second, and survival depends on your ability to protect your stake. Every dollar you put into a poor trade is a dollar you cannot use when the real trade shows up. Think about that. Isn't that the most overlooked truth in this game? You only have so much ammunition, and wasting it on weak setups is the fastest way to run yourself out of the war before the battle even starts. The market doesn't care how badly you want to be in a position. It only cares about probabilities, and probabilities don't favor the trader who insists on forcing weak hands.